So anyway, yes, here we are back with another video, guys. No idea what I'm going to call this one. Albums that come out after the year 2000 from classic rock artists from the 60s and 70s. It's a bit of a mouthful. I'll have to come up with something better than that. So hello and yes, welcome back to another video, guys. My camera a bit smudged. There we are, that's a bit better. So hello and yes, welcome back to another video, guys. And then this is a strange one for me. I literally wanted to do a video today. You know, I haven't done a video in a good week now, or nearly a week. And actually, I've left all the records out on display here in the wrong order. So there's mistake number one, and you guys might be able to guess what one of them is there. Anyway. Let me move these. Sorry, I'm not prepared for this video at all for some reason. So yeah, I'm back today to talk about a very interesting topic. I knew I had to film a video today. Been about a week since I've done a video. There won't be no videos next week, unfortunately, because I'm away with my dad. Me and him are going down to Devon for a week, which is very nice. We're leaving my mum at home. Sorry, mum. So there won't be no videos next week either, unfortunately. So I thought, well, I've got to get a video up. What do I do? So I thought, you know, this is quite an interesting topic, I think. I notice a lot of people here in the VC who collect, you know, a lot of classic rock artists, you know, Stones, the Beatles, David Bowie, you know, all that great stuff. But no one really ventures past the 80s. And I thought, you know, I don't want to talk about the 90s, even though I think the 90s is a brilliant period for all these artists. I'm going to talk about 2000 onwards. And these are albums by older artists from the 2000s, which I think are great. So I have no idea what I'm going to call this video. I'll figure that out when I'm in the editing stages. But yeah, that's the premise of this video. I've got, I think, something like 20 records, just under 20 records here. Of albums from older artists from the 60s, 70s, and even a couple 80s-ish artists here. Yeah, which have put out records from the year 2000 to present day, which I think rock, and I think people should definitely pick up. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. I mean, I'm going to call this classic rock, but there's a couple in here that are a bit more... I mean, there's one artist in here who's a bit proggy, and I've got a couple country folk type ones. But anyway, let's just get started. So the first one up, of course, I'm going to talk about the Stones. That's as classic rock as it gets. And to be honest, the Stones, I don't think they've had a great album since the year 2000. But that all changed very recently with the release of Blue and Lonesome. I really love this album. I think this is a great record. You know, the Stones, in my opinion, were great, and then they lost their way in the 80s a bit, and they never really fully recovered. I mean, they had a good album in the 90s, they were okay in the 90s, but then from the 2000s, I've only heard them on Spotify. I didn't really like any of their albums from the 2000s, in all honesty. But then this one came out very late last year in 2016, and this was brilliant. It's the Stones going blues, really trying something different. They're not just, you know, picking up the guitars and let Mick Jagger just scream down the mic. They're actually trying something a bit different here, and it's great. I love it. They captured the blues sound brilliantly, and I think Mick Jagger has the perfect white male voice for blues. You know, blues, of course, originated from, you know, very old music. It's one of the very first styles of music, traditionally sung by black people, you know, like B.B. King and whatnot, and it sounds great. And, you know, a lot of white people, you know, you got a lot of them now, you know, of course, very famous one of my personal favourites. You got Eric Clapton, who tried to do it really well during the 70s and whatnot, and then you got J.J. Cale, and then we've even got some modern ones now, like Joe Bonamassa. And while they are all fantastic artists, and generally I love all three of them to bits, they have put their own kind of spoof on the blues, whereas Mick Jagger here has really got the perfect white male voice for singing the blues, definitely, I think. So that this album was surprisingly brilliant. It's got a load of great tracks on here. My favourite track is probably the opening track, Just a Fool. And, you know, you do get Eric Clapton on a couple tracks on here. So they actually, you know, thought, oh, we'll get a proper blues guy on the album as well. Just to show that we're trying to be professional about it. So that's a great Stones record. If you haven't picked it up, I'd highly recommend it. have a quick drink now on Pepsi today. Yeah, I have been drinking a lot of water lately, but yeah, I thought why not filming a video, let's relax a bit here, have Pepsi. Right, so when you're talking about the Stones, got to talk some Beatles. Now obviously, of course, Beatles not about today, unfortunately. We're unfortunately missing 2 of them now. They're very sad. But, you know, George Harrison, of course, passed away in 2001, and he did put an album out in the 2000s, and I'm going to show it because I love it. And it's Brainwashed by George Harrison. If I was to rank George Harrison albums, which I might redo, I might do a redo of that video, this would probably come in, thinking number 3. Maybe 4. 3 or 4. This is a fantastic record from George. Really is incredible. It's got the wittiness of George. It's got George's humour in the lyrics. And it's just fantastic songwriting, really. I mean, Any Road is an incredible song. Looking for My Life is also incredible. I love that he goes back and redoes a song which he wrote for Eric Clapton's Journeyman album with Eric Clapton. Run So Far, that was great as well. And, you know, he does a classic ukulele cover of Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. This is an awesome album, guys. Honestly, it's so good. You know, it's got a lot of character. And Jeff Lynne put a great touch on it, with Danny Harrison, of course. And it's great. It's a very well polished up, very well produced, very well sung album, considering George was not well at the time of recording most of these songs. It's great. Really, really great record. And of course, talking about with solo Beatles again, we're going to carry on here. Just get all the solo Beatles stuff out of the way with. We're going to talk about Mr. Paul McCartney. And Paul McCartney is... I loved all of his albums from the 2000s, thinking about it. I even liked Driving Rain. Thought that was a good album. It was definitely one of the weaker ones of his 2000 selection of albums. But I think Driving Rain is actually a pretty decent album. You know, people want to rag on it. I think it's just become a thing now. It's like, oh, everyone hates it, so we got to hate it. But I think it's a decent album. It's not great. It's a decent album. I really do appreciate Kiss on the Bottom. I think that's a great record. But for me, there's 3 really standout Paul McCartney records from the 2000s. One of which is Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. And I have a lot of respect for this album because he recorded it all himself. It's fantastic. There's a lot of really classic McCartney tunes on here, like Fine Line. I think that's a great song. Jenny Wren is a great song. At the Mercy's awesome. English Tea is a really cool song because that was the one that was beamed up to the astronauts. I love Too Much Rain. Yeah, anyway. Brilliant closing track. I absolutely adore this album. Out of the 3 McCartney records I have here to show, this is probably my favourite one. Because I know a lot of people like to put Paul McCartney down today because he done a poor job at the Olympics and the Diamond Jubilee. But to people who say, oh, you know, because I have heard a lot of people say this, that Paul McCartney hasn't got a very good voice today, it's not holding up as well. I say, you know what, go watch one of his most recent concerts at Full One, not just the Diamond Jubilee bit, and go listen to this record, and you'll see how good Paul McCartney still is. And again, that only continues into this album here as well, Memory Almost Full. This is kind of like the songs which didn't make Chaos Creation, but it's a great record again. It's a lot more rocking, a lot more upbeat, and a really fun record. And of course, in 2013... I think Paul knew he had to redeem himself because this was just after the Diamond Jubilee and the Olympics opening ceremony for London 2012. And while I thought, you know, he done good, he done okay, his voice was a bit off those days, unfortunately. And I think he knew he needed to redeem himself a bit. And he did with this album here. No, fantastic record. His voice is on par on this record. It's fantastic. The songwriting is great. The creativity is amazing. When you listen to the song Appreciate, and you tell me that Paul McCartney still hasn't got it. Yeah, I mean, it's so good. It's a great record, this. I absolutely love it. So yeah, Paul McCartney, he's still got it. He's a legend. Living legend. Okay, so next one up. Still going to try and go with the kind of pop rock artist here. We're going to talk about Jeff Lynne and the Electric Light Orchestra. So Jeff Lynne and the Electric Light Orchestra, well, technically just Jeff Lynne. Has had 3 albums out, and I do like all 3, but I'm going to only talk about 2 today. And this is my favourite of the 3 most recent Jeff albums, and it is Zoom And this came out in 2001, so we're just getting this album in here. And this is a fantastic record, honestly, guys. It's such a good comeback for Jeff, really, and it's unfortunate that at the time no one really took much notice of it. There's a lot of great stuff on here, from All Right to Just for Love to Easy Money. You know, A Long Time Gone. Really, really awesome album. There's a lot of just simple, catchy tunes, and it's a lot of fun, this record. And there's a lot of tracks on it. There's 13 tracks. Plus, if you buy the vinyl, you get a 14th bonus studio track, and then they chuck in Turn to Stone Live, which didn't need that one, but you get one bonus track one day, which is actually a really good song. However, I wish they'd included Long Black Road on here, because that is an awesome song there. The only way you can get that on vinyl is if you buy the soundtrack to American Hustle, which I'd recommend doing anyway, because there's a lot of cool stuff on that album, from Elton John to David Bowie, and whole bunch of other artists. But anyway, that is a fantastic album. And I don't think this is quite as good as Zoom, but it was so fun to get caught up in this album when it came out, because it was so exciting to have Jeff Lynne back. And that is Alone in the Universe. So yeah, I do love Long Wave, by the way, because that's the album I'm not talking about here. I do really like Long Wave, but this one here was more of a comeback for Jeff, because original material, Jeff was doing all the work on here again. Of course, had Richard Tandy there, and he had Steve J there to help engineer the album. It's all written and all produced by Jeff, and it's a really fun album. It's just a bit short. That's the only problem with this album. It's a bit short. I think some of the songs could have done with a couple minutes added on, and maybe an extra song or two would have been nice. I can't lie. You know, you buy the CD version, the deluxe one, and you do get a bonus track on it. I think you get 2 bonus tracks, maybe 2. One of them's not so good. I think it's just called Blue. But the other track on there I remember really liking a lot. So it's, you know, it's a bit short, this album, but it's really good. It's a really good comeback album. And it was so fun to get caught up in it when it came out. So I definitely recommend picking that one up. Next one up is by probably my favourite artist. And yeah, both of his comeback albums were amazing. Again, this artist had been out of it for 10 years. His last album was 2003. And while that was a great record as well, this album is awesome. First time I heard it, I wasn't massively keen on it. I can't lie. It took a couple listens, but honestly, now it is one of my favourite records by this artist. And that is David Bowie, The Next Day. I mean, this is an, honestly, incredible record. The Stars Are Out Tonight is one of my all-time favourite Bowie songs. It's great. Valentine's Day is also up there. I'd Rather Be High is brilliant. So She is a great song as well. This whole record is honestly just a lot of fun. And if you haven't heard it, I'd highly recommend it. It's a great rocking record from Bowie. And his vocals are amazing on it. Amazing. And the band that he's with does a great job. Speaking of Bowie, I had to do this album as well. Bowie's getting 2 albums. Black Star. You know, what a record. This was incredible when it came out. I remember ordering this the night before he passed away. And it was so weird. I woke up the next morning and heard the tragic news that he'd passed away. And I thought, as you know, I was, you know, heartbroken. I absolutely loved Bowie. And then, of course, I didn't see my vinyl for about 3 weeks because everyone was buying it. And even though I did buy mine before, you know, everyone started to go out and get this album, I still didn't see mine for about 3 weeks. But anyway, it came, and I do love this record to bits. It is an incredible album. My favourite track on here is probably the second track, Lazarus, but I love the opening track, Black Star. I love Sue, 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff on here. I can't even read the tracks because the back is so hard to read. But there are tracks on there. I think you can see them just there. Yeah, probably say I like Dollar Days as well. That's a really good song. But this whole album is fantastic. It really is. Honestly, if you have not picked up Black Star yet, you need to. It's an important record. It's probably the most important record of 2016 easily. But probably the most important record in a very long time. And it is a kick-ass album. Very, very good. Right, gonna have a quick drink before we carry on here. Oh, that's better. Right, gonna go to some more slower artist kind of thing here. Some folk, some blues type guys. Anyway, so first up we're going to talk about Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's a hard artist to talk about because, you know, everyone knows his best stuff and there's no denying it. It's from the 60s and 70s. You start talking about Dylan past the 70s and it all gets a bit wobbly. And I've recently just discovered Dylan, so I've recently just got into him. So I'm still quite new. You know, Dylan's voice, unfortunately, is not holding up perfectly today. But you get the occasions when his voice is still incredible. And there are albums which you occasionally get of his, which, again, are incredible. And since the 2000s, he's had a couple really good albums. Tempest, Modern Times. In my opinion, he's had this one brilliant album, and that's this one. Love and Theft. I honestly adore this record. I only played this for the first time about a week ago. And honestly, just enjoyed the hell out of it. It is a great record. I mean, if you like Bob Dylan, and you're a little bit nervous to try any of his newer stuff, because, you know, I mean, there's no denying it. Even the biggest Dylan fans will admit it, I think. You know, his voice, just generally, I mean, it wasn't brilliant in the 60s or 70s. And you can hear it gradually going throughout each album in the late 70s and then into the 80s. So you kind of dread to think, okay, by 2001, what is his voice actually going to be like? And if you're nervous to try that, it's completely understandable, because I remember going into these albums from Dylan from the 2000s thinking, oh god, how's this voice gonna sound? A couple of them, the voice was a bit shaky. I can't lie, Fallen Angel, I didn't like that record much, and his voice just didn't hold up very good on that one. The new album, Triplica, the song that he released, his voice sounded great though. So it just shows, I think it depends what Dylan's motivation is for the album, because he can still sound great. You know, he's coming back on Triplica with a great voice. He had a great voice on Shadows in the Night, I thought. But then, as I said, there's others like Fallen Angel, where I didn't think it was very good, his voice. But then again, I didn't think the album was in general. But this album here, Love and Theft, his voice is amazing. This is easily my favourite Dylan record of the 2000s that I've heard so far. Yeah, it's great. My favourite track, probably the opening track, actually, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. But I love Bye Bye. Floater's good. Moonlight is great. So, there's a lot of good tracks on here. So, if you like Bob Dylan, and you don't own that one, it's one to pick up. I'm going to talk about Bob Dylan's first man here. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, you know, another one who we've unfortunately lost in this list. Johnny Cash is a true genius as well. And this was the last album he put out before he died. And it is, without a doubt, a masterpiece. You know, a lot of covers on here. So it's hard to say this album is, you know, a masterpiece. But it really is, because he makes these songs his own. You know, he covers a 9 Inch Nails song on here called Hurt, for example. Makes it his own, and it is incredible. It's more popular than the original now. He also covers, of course, a Beatles song, In My Life. Makes it his own. He covers Bridge Over Troubled Water, and in my opinion, it's better than the original. So there's a lot of great stuff on here. It's just a classic, relaxed album with Johnny Cash on his acoustic guitar, and it sounds great. You know, if you haven't heard this, pick it up, give it a try. It's well worth it. Now we're going to do some Eric Clapton talk. You guys know me, big Eric Clapton fan. You know, for me it's like David Bowie, Eric Clapton, my top two. Love them both. Eric Clapton, there's a lot of biasness in me with Eric Clapton. I could pick out all of his albums. I loved his most recent one, I still do. I love Road to Escondido because him and JJ Cale sound brilliant together. Really enjoyed Reptile. But I picked out two. Also I'll say Old Sock. That was great as well. I picked out two. I'm going to stick with these two as my top two for Clapton. This is going to be Back Home from 2005. Some people have heard this say it's a bit too cheesy for them. And I get that, but I really like this album because if you read Eric Clapton's autobiography, you kind of get a better appreciation for this album. Eric Clapton's had such a hard life. I'll say hard life. You know, 60s, didn't know what he wanted to do. He was bouncing back and forth to bands. He was pretty miserable. He only wanted to make one style of music, and producers and other members of his bands were trying to influence him in other ways, so he would go from band to band. 70s, you know, he was very lost in his life, really. You know, started off doing a lot of drugs and whatnot, and then he came back with the album 461. That album exploded, of course, done really well for him. There was all this drama with him and Pattie Boyd. And then at the end of the 70s, he went into rehab. 80s, same kind of thing. Went into rehab again in the 80s. And then, of course, at the start of the 90s, he lost his son, which was a tragedy. 90s, it was just all a bit discombobulated. He was doing a lot of different things. But at the very end of the 90s, start of the 2000s, he found a woman. I forget her name, but he fell in love with a lady. And then they had some kids. And then, you know, Eric really wanted to make this fun, upbeat album. And we got this one here back home. You can actually see in the gatefold a picture of him and his family. And they're all still very happy. It's very, very nice. And it's a really touching album. It's like you can tell how happy Clapton is. He really wanted to put a lot of effort into this album as well. Because he originally went in to record it in 2004. But he generally felt he wasn't ready to make the album. So they just recorded some Robert Johnson songs. And we got Me and Mr. Johnson. So this is a real Clapton album where he put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into it. And you know, it's not his best album. You know, to me, Pilgrim is always going to be his masterpiece. But it's a really fun album. It's one which Clapton is very happy and proud of, I think. And yeah, you know, the opening track, So Tired, is brilliant. I love the Stevie Wonder covers, I'm Going Left, that's great. Revolution's great. The George Harrison cover, Love Comes to Everyone, better than the original, I think. And the title track, Back Home, is a brilliant acoustic cover. And then I also love the self-titled Clapton album from 2010. This is great, got a very American songbook jazzy feel to it. And a lot of classic tracks on here. A lot of fun. Now, go a bit quick. I've only got 5 more albums to talk about here. This artist here, you know, has changed the most, I think. You know, this artist here used to be screaming down the mic in Led Zeppelin. But now his voice, you know, his voice has changed and he's accepted that. And he's done a lot of cool albums, but this one to me is amazing. This is his most recent one. Robert Plant, and it's with a band called Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar. I think that's it. Oh, Robert Plant and the Sensational Space Drifters, sorry. And that's the name of the album, Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but wow, what a record. It's great. I'll just say, go check out the track Rainbow. That's an awesome track. But yeah, it's a really fun record, and you've got to check it out. It's really, really cool. Next one up, Tom Petty. Tom Petty, you know, there's like 3 Tom Petty albums for me from the 2000s, which were really cool. Mojo, Highway Companion, and this one. And I didn't put Mojo in because I thought there are too many weak moments on it for me. I nearly put Highway Companion in here, but again, I didn't think it was quite good enough for my list. But this one here is great, and that's Hypnotic Eye. This was an incredible record for Tom. Every track on here is just, honestly, incredible. Favourites, though, probably be Fault Lines, Red River, Forgotten Man, You Get Me High, and Shadow People. Yeah, just an awesome, awesome record. It's a lot of fun, and I'd recommend that to anyone. Anyone who watches this channel will like that album, I can guarantee it. Okay, next one up, Fleetwood Mac fans. You know, a lot of solo Fleetwood Mac material out there now. Lindsey Buckingham has always been a personal favourite of mine when it comes to solo careers. And he's done a lot of good stuff, but there hasn't been anything that's grabbed me yet and said it's amazing. Until this one came out in 2011. 2011 this one came out. Wow, it's been a while. And it's called Seeds We Sow, I think. Yep, Seeds We Sow. And it is a great record. Just Lindsey on the acoustic, and it sounds phenomenal. It's just a lot of fun. It shows how good of a guitarist Lindsey Buckingham really is. So, highly recommended. 2 more, nearly there. Peter Gabriel, always been a favourite artist of mine as well. And And you know, Pete Gabriel, his best work is definitely 90s. Us. Great record. But then I love his 4 self-titled albums. Hasn't really done too much, I'm not going to lie, in the 2000s. But this one I always really liked. I forgot the name of it. It's called New Blood. It's great. It's Pete Gabriel revisiting all these songs and doing it with an orchestra. Sounds great. He gives the songs new life, new energy, new characters. It's a really, really good record. So again, I'd highly recommend this to any Peter Gabriel fan. Last one up. I don't know too much about this artist yet. I can't lie. I just picked up his new album yesterday and I actually really enjoyed it. But this is his last album from 2015. Don't know the most about this artist, but I really, really like this record. So I have to show it. You know, this guy's most famous for the band The Jam. But his solo career I know is very good. I'm still discovering it, but I really, really love this record. And it's Saturn's Patterns. There's the phone. There's the phone ringing. There we are, that's done. Just stupid phone there. Apparently I was in a car crash. Don't know. We seem to get them phone calls a lot here in the UK. I don't know about anywhere else. You were in a car crash. Really? Was I? I didn't know that. Anyway, Paul Weller, Saturn's Pattern. You know, it was a really good record. I enjoyed this a lot. For people who like The Jam, I think they would really be interested in picking this album up. Just to see what he's doing today. And he really is good. In his new album, Soundtrack for Sawbone or something like that. I picked it up yesterday. Very different, but I actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, Paul Weller, great. But anyway, that is it for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you soon for another video. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next time.